The one thing is that the region, although in a few countries, you see the MVNO initiatives, and Oman is the first one, is still not open fully to MVNOs. One of the reasons is that MNOs don't believe in the true value proposition of MVNOs. And one problem is ourselves, the MVNOs. We are going to MNOs and asking for, okay, you make so much revenues on ethnic markets or international calling markets, I want to tap into that market. Operators, MNOs are looking more complementary value add from the MVNOs. So that's one part. On the other hand, and in every event you see MNOs are complaining about they're losing revenues to OTT players, and the value chain, telecom value chain is breaking up. And their value, the customer wallet value share of MNOs is going down and down. Their growth is stagnated, and they cannot find a way to compete against OTT. So shall we try to kill them, which is not possible, or shall we try to stop them, which is not possible? What shall we do? Well, the bottom line is affected. So I see in between these two, I see a good, let's say, common denominator between MVNO and MNO. If, as an MNO, you cannot fight against OTTs, so what would you do? Okay, try to make my own OTT application, just like you see lots of examples in Europe, especially groups like Telefonica. They have a fantastic application, Tume, and maybe more than 10 million subscribers. They build their own social network. And you see the same initiatives from other European operators. So they could do pretty much the same thing in the region. But unfortunately, some MNOs are not very capable of creating that value proposition, because OTTs, you know, they are hipster, young, and technology companies, and that requires an entrepreneurial spirit. If you get stuck with the corporate governance of big MNOs like public companies, it's not pretty much possible. So the best would be partnering up with an MVNO. Okay, I'm gonna start a new voice over IP application, let's say in UAE or some other country, but I want it to be legitimate, and I want to control it, and I want that company to take share of the share that I lost to other OTTs and contribute to me. And that would be pretty much the way for regional MNOs to fight against OTTs. Or the other thing is that, of course, I mean, so far OTT players and MNOs have been looking for ways to partner up, but in the current conditions, they cannot find that common denominator. What could be an alternative model that MNOs approaching global OTTs and trying to start a relationship at least around MVNO model and turning them into MVNOs and offering them some complementary services like end-to-end quality of service or so value add or customer profiles to the existing OTTs, and try to capitalize on that opportunity, which is, for example, there is let's say I would call it a pilot run in Germany between WhatsApp, global giant now, and E+. So now there are WhatsApp SIM cards, and that makes literally WhatsApp an MVNO. We will see. I am personally hopeful about that model, that it's going to work. Of course, if it works there and it's going to spread around Europe, and probably it's going to hit the region. And for us, for regional operators, MNOs, I'm not an MNO, but for regional operators, it might be wise to take a early position on that movement as well. If you look at the markets, current markets, now the mobile market or mobile voice and data, traditional, the growth is stagnated. And globally as well, that's a trend. The growth on telecom side is quite low now. And in the region as well, if you look at the market, it's quite mature, and the growth is possibly the growth of population or growth of economy, which is limiting telecom operators. So they almost maximize their potentials. So what would be the next? Of course, again, we can look globally or regionally. I see the next move, especially on the SME side. SME, small and medium businesses, offers good growth prospects for the operators. So of course, that's a tough market to address, because SME stands between enterprises and the consumers. Here, the operators are expert in producing massive, let's say, products that would address a mass community, not standardized products, or going to enterprises with commodity applications, custom-made tailored applications. SMEs sits in between. They want a standardized application, but they can become as complex as enterprises. So that's a tough market to address, but this is where the real growth will be, because even from, if you look at the countries' economies like UAE or Oman, or the policies of the government, there is a big initiative at government level to support the growth of proliferation of the SMEs. So, for example, if I talk about the country I'm coming from, Oman, there is a government program that stimulates the support to SMEs from the key stakeholders like banks or other governmental institutions to support the flourishing of the SMEs, which means that there is a good growth market for operators. The other angle, the growth market would be here, providing the true integrated services proposition, which means that a little bit to the move towards cloud market. Because if you look at the trend since 2010, and according to the market research, several market researches, the share of telecom spending in global ICT spending is getting less and less every year, is decreasing. In the meantime, the share of cloud is expected to increase. So there is a substitution between telecom spending and, let's say, cloud spending. So there is a good opportunity for regional operators. First of all, it could provide them a competitive advantage to compete against their competitor, because as of today, most of the markets in the Middle East are either duopolies or tripolies. Like you have usually two dominant powers in every market, just like Dubai or Oman or other countries. So somehow they maximize their potential, grow potential mobile voice and data, and the competition doesn't grow the market further. So they compete on gentleman basis. But differentiation-based competition can be stimulated, fueled by cloud, offering cloud services. And in the meantime, the IT spending in the region is ever increasing. There's a big movement from SME to enterprise side as well. And telecom operators can capitalize on these opportunities. And the third market that I would see would be data center market in the region, because it's just an emerging, let's say, concept now. Not globally, but for the region, there are only maybe one or two data centers. Let's say so-called neutral data centers. Most of the data centers are run by the national telcos, which doesn't serve the needs of carrier-neutral proposition. So that could be a good opportunity for creating carrier-neutral data centers for the region. I've been attending this event for the last maybe 5 or 6 years. So I'm seeing that the strategy has changed this year especially. In the past, the approach was more like, there were some complaints from the market, but this year I'm seeing that the event strategy has changed, and you are trying to penetrate into larger verticals and horizontals, and not just because the event was known as an executive event, and people were complaining that we cannot do over-the-counter business. But what I see this year, now you have more players and more differentiated companies and more differentiated titles in the event, so that people can talk about over-the-counter business as well, which is why they're coming.